Well, hello, everybody. We want to welcome you to tonight's webinar. Kevin and I are excited to be with you tonight to talk about merit scholarships and also dive into some other great details that you need to know. We'll give you all just a few minutes to join us. Why don't you tell us where you're from in the chat box, if you would? And then we're also going to be using the Q&A tonight for question and answers. We'll do our best to answer those as we go along. But again, glad to have you with us. Everybody's being tentative about sharing where they're from tonight.
Nothing in the chat.
Nothing. That's right.
I'll start by sharing where I'm from.
Oh, good.
I'm from New Jersey. Could say down by the shore, but I don't really say that. Basically central New Jersey, yes, towards the ocean, but a town called West Long Branch. Do you want to share where you're from?
Yep. I am from a little town called Florence, Kentucky. That's about 20 minutes south of Cincinnati, Ohio. And have born and raised in this area. Love it. Over here in Kentucky, we have a little bit of paradise. So it's all
I
good.
love that.
Yeah. So, but hey, thanks for sharing. Those of you who have, I know we have somebody from San Francisco, Maryland area, California. Okay, visit Maryland, California a lot. Okay, cool. All right. So, Texas, Atlanta, Pennsylvania. Okay, now we got them flowing in here.
There we go.
All right. Beautiful.
I'd say that we're fortunate in the sense that folks who follow us and watch our presentations, they're just from all over. Today I spoke to someone from Belize. But it's so cool how just all over the world we've got folks watching us, and you can see even here, West Coast, East Coast, all different parts, Texas.
Yeah.
So cool.
Excellent. Well, why don't we get started here? Let me share my screen. And
before we do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, I guess I could take a minute to do that. Hey, folks, my name is Dan Bisig. I am an independent college consultant, actually a CAP expert. Have been with College Aid Pro for 4 years and actually do both admissions and college funding conversations. So excited to be with you this evening. Kevin, how about you?
Yeah, I'm Kevin Murphy. I'm one of the college financial aid experts here at CAP, and been with CAP now since summer of 2024. I've been doing this since 2018. Worked with countless families over the years, and yeah, I'm excited to be here as well. I'll let you kick it off.
Okay, great. So let me get this going here. Awesome. Well, listen, folks, for those of you that have been here before and those that haven't, you just need to know that our mission is real clear. We want to empower you, families, to shop smarter for college. We really do believe that it's in your hands. It's your opportunity to do it. And one of the ways, of course, that comes into play is through the scholarships that we're going to be talking about, the merit scholarships and everything, and also some other details we want to deal with. But again, here's our pictures in case you're wondering who we are again. Super excited to have you with us tonight. So one of the things that is really important, we hope that you all have done this, is that you've set up your MyCAP account. And just so that you know, that's one of the things we're going to be referring to this evening, because we do believe that it's a great opportunity for you to get some great details and really to help you as you're navigating your way through this process. In fact, I like to call it the Swiss Army knife of the process, because quite frankly, it's got a lot of great tools and things that are built into it. So we're going to be opening this up and going into a little bit more detail in a minute here, but it's real easy to do. I don't know, Kevin, if you put into the chat box, just thank you.
It's already in there.
He's got the link in there for you, but it's real simple, mycap.collegeaidpro.com. If you haven't set up your own account yet, we encourage you to do that. By the way, just a quick reminder again, if you're going to have any questions tonight, please put them into the Q&A section. So what is financial aid, and why do we want to bring this up when we're talking about merit scholarships? Well, you know what? It's really important because, quite frankly, merit aid and scholarships are one of the biggest ways that colleges can discount their rates. And you have to understand that when it comes to financial aid, there's really three different ways that colleges put this together and package it. We've got need-based grants. That's the free money that comes to you based on completing financial aid forms, which we'll introduce you to in a minute in case you haven't already done that. Then we've got the merit-based scholarships. The good news about this is money that's awarded to students based on all the terrific things that you've done. Think about your talent, your academics, and your athletics. And then, of course, there's self-help. Those are things like the loans and work study that are out there, but just recognize the fact that that is not free money. Um, so just something to keep in mind. But these are the different types of financial aid. The question is, depending upon where you are in this process, which of those are you going to receive? Again, we're talking about or we'll be talking a lot more about the middle option here and throughout this presentation tonight. So, one important thing when it comes to need-based financial aid is this little formula that's in the middle. In other words, are you going to be eligible for it? It starts with your cost of attendance. That's the sticker price for the college. Then we subtract from that your student aid index. And for those of you that are out there, hopefully, if you're a senior, you definitely know what this is. If you're a younger family, this may be something that you're going to be tackling here in the future. But basically, it's the dollar amount that the colleges think that you can pay annually for college. And then, depending upon the difference between those numbers, that might equal a need. And that's the amount of financial aid that your family is potentially going to be eligible to receive, depending upon your circumstances. So, what are you supposed to do if your SAI, remember what that is, that's your student aid index, is too high? Now what? If you've gone through this process, and maybe some of you are already out there dealing with this right now, if you're 2026 graduates, you're starting to receive your financial aid offers that are coming in. Well, the good news is, and hopefully you've done this, there are definitely some colleges out there that award merit-based aid. They give scholarships away to students. In fact, there are some schools that do an incredible job. I mean, University of Alabama, this is a school that's all across the United States with admissions reps trying to recruit students to their fine institution. But the nice thing about it is that they also give a lot of merit aid scholarships out. How about the schools, though, to the right? The thing that you're going to notice about them is that they meet 100% of need, which is fantastic if you're in a situation like that. But again, we're talking here that your SAI is too high to qualify for that. What are you going to do then? Well, again, that's where maybe there's some opportunities out there depending upon what's going on. But just recognize this. It's really important to know this. Those schools like Northwestern and Notre Dame and Harvard and MIT. These are schools that, if they have any scholarships, it's super duper small, if any scholarships at all. So just recognize the fact that you're not going to likely get any merit scholarships at that type of a school. Kevin, any other comments about that at all that you want to share?
No, I would just say that at those universities, right, they're so expensive that families can make a lot of money and still get need-based aid from them. So that's something that we'll talk about in a second when I go into MyCAP, just showing like what those numbers look like. But yeah, if you don't qualify for any and your SAI is over that cost, without a doubt, unless you want to spend 100 grand a year on college, you need to avoid those schools. So it's important to do that homework ahead of time. We didn't ask in the beginning, but I think most of the folks on tonight's presentation, maybe juniors, sophomores, right, just starting this process. So really good to get a handle on what you qualify for. Someone just wrote into the chat, can I explain SAI again? When I go into the software in a few minutes, I'll briefly go over SAI. So I'll answer that. Yeah.
Perfect. You want to take this slide?
Yeah, sure. So all the time, I'd probably say it's the number one question we get. Why should I still submit the financial aid forms if I don't qualify for anything? The biggest reason is there's a good chance you actually do qualify for something you have no idea. In addition to that, there's a lot of colleges that require the financial aid forms. Virginia Tech requires the FAFSA for many of their merit scholarships. NYU requires the FAFSA and the CSS profile for scholarship consideration. So a lot of schools do require that just to get a merit scholarship, which is not based on your finances at all. Now, in terms of financial aid, some schools require you apply the first year or you don't get it. I'm actually doing something for a family right now with Trinity College, and they didn't apply the first year, and now they're having a hard time getting it sophomore year. So it's really, even if you don't qualify, still apply, because you don't know what's going to happen. College is a 4-year game, and you need to make sure that you're prepared for freshman, sophomore, and junior and senior year. We'll talk a little bit very briefly at the end about appeals, but if you want to appeal, if you had a change in circumstances, if you had expenses, you need to file the forms. And lastly, federal direct student loans. This is a great resource for students. I'd say that we recommend most, if not all, families take this. I would probably say all. Small amount of money that every student can get by filing the FAFSA. Tons of value there, tons of reasons to take it. Can't get it unless you file the FAFSA. So bunch of reasons to do it. Literally no reason not to file the FAFSA or the CSS profile. Now, in terms of merit-based aid, merit-based aid always comes from the Office of Admissions, right? It doesn't come from the Office of Financial Aid. And it's a discount, and it's essentially an enticement, right? To get your student to commit, to get your student to go to that school, makes them feel good, right? It also brings the cost down. So it's something that is definitely going to be an incentive without a doubt. And the good thing about merit aid, it lasts all 4 years. Your income can go up, down, doesn't matter if you can win the lottery. As long as your student maintains a minimal, usually like 3.0, sometimes 2.8 GPA, they're going to keep those merit scholarships. Now, it is going to be specific to each school and each scholarship, but usually it's somewhere around 3.0. And merit's totally based on your student's academics. Think grades, test scores, their talent profile. And merit offers can be really, really sizable, right? I mean, some colleges, not all, but some colleges even have full tuition rights via merit scholarships. And, it's a really good strategy and a really good avenue to take in terms of looking for discounts in college. Now, in terms of how merit is awarded, it's different at I don't want to say every school, but different schools award merit differently. And some schools award it holistically. Some schools are very rigid in the sense of, with this test score and this GPA, you get X amount of dollars. But schools like American University in DC and Franklin and Marshall, they have a more holistic approach in terms of how they award merit scholarships. And typically speaking, you're going to see a lot of merit scholarships from those high sticker price private colleges. Think 60, 70, 80, $90,000 private colleges. They're going to see those costs get discounted. So don't have sticker shock and don't be afraid of that starting number. There are many public universities that also give merit scholarships. Even the honors programs, right, can be an additional incentive. But that's going to be very specific to the school. And merit scholarships are specific to your student. And I'll show in literally just a second how you can be a little bit more targeted with your family. Is it okay if I, before we go into the FAFSA, if I spend a few minutes jumping into the software? Bear with me.
Absolutely, Kevin.
Thank you. Okay, so let's talk through everything. And the last question that we had was, what is your SAI? So I'll spend just a couple more minutes on your SAI. When you enter your information into your MyCAP account, or just think about the information that's asked for on the financial aid forms, right? Your adjusted gross income, your wages earned, your non-retirement assets, all of those numbers are here. This formula, right, takes a percentage of those items. So a percentage of your income, a percentage of your assets, and ultimately that equates to this SAI. And it's a measure to determine how much you qualify for in need-based aid. So if a school is $100,000 and you have an SAI of 62, you're going to qualify for the difference in need-based grants. And that's totally irrelevant of merit scholarships. Those you could have an SAI of 100 and still get merit scholarships at a particular school, right? So that's a different calculation. But it's good when you're starting this process to go through the motions and learn what your SAI is and determine what the best approach for your family to take is. Now, when you're searching for colleges and you're starting to build a school list, you need to think about affordability, right? You need to think about schools that your student is likely to get into. Dan, is it still safety target reach? I feel like it's a little bit different in terms of wording these days.
I mean, it really is. I mean, it also
Yeah.
could be 50-50s in the middle and or dream schools, you know?
Yeah. So let's just say, for example, you want to search for schools that are less than $40,000 a year. You want to search based on a particular major, certain GPA, test score, and so forth. Then you can start working to build a school list. And when you're building a school list, you can see that we're projecting the cost based on your circumstances, based on your finances, your student's GPA, your student's test scores. And these are your real net costs. And with that, some schools, right, they're going to be outside of the budget. That's this caution section here. So when you're building a school list, you really want to make sure that you have a lot of schools that are ideal or great. And in addition to that, you've got competitive, selective, and highly selective. You also need to have schools that your students likely to get into, right? That those safety, those target, and those reach schools, and have it balanced from an affordability perspective. So a combination of safety, target, reach, as well as affordable. You might have some schools that slightly above the budget, slightly below the budget, or you're never going to be exact to your budget, but you always want to be as close as possible or less than. Anything you want to add here in terms of building a school list or affordability?
The only thing I was going to suggest also that I really love on that search tool is that it's got the ability in there to go to the type of merit aid, meaning that you could select in the scholarships that you wanted to be, you know, automatic only, for example, within the software. So it's
Yeah.
really got a powerful opportunity there to help families as they're really trying to find out, you know, am I for sure going to be able to find scholarships at this particular school that they're considering?
And you can search in particular school, like you're saying, right? And then you can do a deep dive.
Yeah.
And now you can start looking at the school and you can say, okay, well, what's their average GPA? What's the average SAT? What's the average ACT? But you can also look and see, are they giving a lot of need-based aid? Are they giving a lot of merit? But let's be a little bit more targeted, right? Let's look through here and look at the actual merit scholarships that Sacred Heart in Connecticut gives. And you can see 10,000, 17,000, 19,000, 23,000. You can even see the corresponding test scores. So you can even plan like, all right, so we're going to get this one here because our student has a 1250. Great, $23,000 a year. You can plan. Now, part of this too, aside from searching for merit is, well, when building a school list, you also want to think about the appeal process. And obviously that's something that's way, way, way down the line. But schools compete for students. And if we have Sacred Heart here giving a $23,000 scholarship and ultimately costing, you know, around 60 grand a year, well, what schools are going to be a little bit better than that, right? What schools are going to actually give us a better offer than Sacred Heart would? Maybe we're going to look here at Quinnipiac and we're going to say, well, we'll do a deep dive. What are we going to get with a similar score? Let's say it is 26,000, which MyCAP already predicted based on the information that's in here. Look at this net cost, 57,000. So that's 57 versus 63. Guess what? Now you're going to be able to go back to Sacred Heart later on, and you're going to say, hey, I've got a better offer from Quinnipiac. And that offers 57,000 for a net cost. You're at 63. Actually, funny enough, Sacred Heart actually has a form where you put these different offers on it. That's for competing schools. So it's a great example. But even when you're starting this process, even when you're building a school list, you need to be thinking about this because you can't think about this January or February of your student's senior year. It's too late to add those extra colleges. Now, in terms of maximizing merit two, can you still see my screen?
Yes, you're good.
Okay. So you see here, there's 26,000 and 28,000. Well, there's something called that appeals process where you're going to go back and you're essentially going to fight for more money with the school. And it might be through means of maybe you had a change in circumstances. That's a different type of appeal. But it might be a merit appeal to the Office of Admissions. And that's where you're going to see here, well, maybe we're going to try to get that scholarship from 26,000 to 28,000 Quinnipiac. And again, it's a great way of just even strategizing and planning down the line. What can we actually get? What can we push for? Let me go back here for a second. And you can see here in terms of the net costs all on the right-hand side where we have a really wide range, right? And this is specific. This is totally based on the SAI and the GPA that's entered, as well as the SAT score, ACT score. And that's what all these predictions and projected net costs are based off of. So you'll see Bentley's 39,000, right? This is, I believe, Clarkson. Yeah, Clarkson's 38,000, whereas Boston University is 92,000 and Loyola, right, 67,000. So just a wide range. But ultimately, you're going to use this to, again, plan accordingly to make sure that you have schools on your list that are within your budget. And I do want to just show something as well. Let's say that you're trying to plan now, should your student spend extra time taking the SAT, right, and prepping for it, and maybe taking it a third time? Well, let's say it's a pretty big jump, admittedly. But let's say that Emma's new SAT score is a 1350 and Emma's GPA is a 3.7, right? Weighted, a 3.5 unweighted. And the ACT score will have that correspond with a 1350, which I believe is somewhere around a 31 or 30, right, Dan?
Yeah, that's about right.
So you'll see now that some of the projections are going to change here, right? And some of like Loyola went down by almost 10 grand. Why? Because the increased scores and increased GPA. That's that extra incentive to spend the extra time working on SAT prep or even working on improving some of the grades. Anything you want to add with that?
No, I mean, it's just a fantastic tool because it's so transparent for you to be able to see as you are planning. The thing you don't want to do is put a bunch of colleges in there that just don't fit the family budget. So from the beginning, if you know, I mean, back to that slide that talked about what happens if your SAI is too high, the very best way that you can reduce that is by having your student apply to colleges that are going to reward them for all their hard work. And that's truly through the merit scholarships that they're going to receive. So use the software effectively. It really can make a huge difference as you're navigating your way through this process.
Absolutely. And you're going to even be able to see like there's schools that don't reward your student for any of their hard work. Like I can go here and add, I always pick on Penn State, but I can add here Penn State once I find it. Did I spell it wrong? It's getting me today. I'm adding another public university. I can go here and add University of Massachusetts Amherst, which is in state for this particular family. And you can see here, right, they do give some scholarships, but for in-state students, not really, right? It's very hard to get an in-state merit scholarship from UMass Amherst. And if that's the case, it's like they're not getting a discount. Meanwhile, this is the in-state public university. But here, the out-of-state private university that has an $89,000 sticker price, the actual award came back, right, with $38,418 right here. So it's like that's cheaper than our in-state public option. So again, just plan accordingly and make sure that when you're building a school list and you're going through this process, you are maximize merit scholarships. And if you do qualify for need-based aid, that you're trying to maximize that as well. Aside from running projections and assumptions with SAT scores and ACT scores, and I'll just bring this back so we can look at it as it was. You can also run projections based on Sorry. You can also run projections based on income and assets. So let's say that you're trying to plan this process and maybe you had a change in circumstances, or maybe that next year your income is going to be less. Well, you can go in and you can say, you know what? I'm going to have this reflect my current numbers. Maybe this year I'm going to make 150. And you can adjust this so it's 150. And that way you're trying to model and you're trying to project your actual current reality, which could be very helpful not only for planning, but also for appeals. But I do want to just spend one more second in terms of on private scholarships. So families ask us all the time, right? Should we spend our time searching for private scholarships? And we're not going to say no, but we're going to say you should spend about 5% of your overall time for this whole process searching for private scholarships. In here, we do have a private scholarship search where I believe there's somewhere around $10 billion in private scholarships, just under 7,000 actual scholarships in here. And you can have your students spend time for sure, but 95% of your time should be doing what we just went over with you, which is maximizing merit from the colleges and getting every dollar you can initially from them, as well as on appeal when you go back and you actually fight for more. So it is important to consider private scholarships, but it should ultimately be a small overall percentage of the time.
All right. Yeah, and with the software, we're actually making it easier on you because we've got such a large grouping all in one place for you.
Absolutely. Before I stop screen sharing and get out of here, Dan, is there anything that you want to add?
No, I mean, once again, the opportunity to plug in all your information, other than, let me say this to you, make sure that you're really accurate with the details that you put into your profile. It really does pay off. If you put junky numbers in, you're going to get junky numbers out. So make sure that you're putting accurate details in about students' GPA, their test scores, if you have those details. I know somebody was asking earlier, will the software show merit scholarships if you don't have a test score? There are colleges that absolutely have merit scholarships that don't require a test score. So, don't be afraid to put whatever factual details you've got into it. The better the information, the more reliable the information coming back out will be for you.
Absolutely. And again, if you're just starting this process, this is where you really want to be focused on. Building that school list, maximizing merit, and making sure that you are getting every dollar from the colleges. But yeah, okay. Let me stop sharing. Okay.
All right. So let's go from here. My goodness, that slide just keeps wanting to pop up. It's, all right. You want to talk about the FAFSA, or would you like for me to give a try?
Give it a try, whatever you prefer.
Well, let me just talk about it for just a second here. For those of you that are joining us again and don't know 100% what grade level you're in, but let's say that you are looking forward to, maybe you're not looking forward to, but eventually having to complete this thing called the free application for federal student aid. It goes live on October the 1st. This is really where all the magic starts when it comes to the federal need-based aid, and also with giving colleges what they need so that they've got the ability to package up and show you what they're going to offer. Also know that this is also where colleges are taking a look for the first time with some of their additional merit scholarships that they may be offering, including the application that your students have submitted. So make sure that you are prepared for that. For those of you that are seniors, you've already done this, but we're in an important time right now with, again, as those financial aid offers are flowing in, that you're taking the time to work through it. And just be prepared for that.
Absolutely. Is it okay if I just explain one thing here too?
Please.
So what's interesting with the FAFSA is that with the FAFSA, right, only the custodial parent submits the form. So when you're thinking through building that school list and you're trying to maximize merit, that's great. But also if you are eligible for need-based aid and you are trying to figure out what schools you're eligible for, need at which ones you aren't, let's say that in your family situation, it would be beneficial if it's a school that just looks at one parent's income. Well, we're going to talk about another form called the CSS profile in a second, but the FAFSA is just using that custodial parent in a divorced or separated household. And it's a really big planning opportunity to look at the right schools, even ahead of time, to figure out, who's going to be the parent who provides the most financial support, what could maybe be restructured leading up to filing the form to put yourself in a spot to get as much aid as you can from the colleges. And although, you know what, I'm going to stop guessing. Can everyone watching please put in your student's graduation year in the chat?
Yeah, that'd
Uh,
be awesome.
yeah, we should have asked earlier. But if let's just say you have a junior and you're like, well, I 27, right? 28, perfect. Um, yep. So let's say everyone, right? You've got juniors, sophomores, and you're like, well, I don't have to do this until October, right? I've got, quite a bit of time. Nothing stops you from creating a studentaid.gov account now. Nothing stops you from just getting prepared. And also, again, planning and thinking through this. You are not going to be filing a FAFSA right now, just getting essentially set up and getting prepared.
Go for it.
Me? Okay. So beyond the FAFSA, there's another form called the CSS profile. The CSS profile does not replace the FAFSA, right? It's in addition to the FAFSA. And it's a much, much, much lengthier form. It's from College Board, so it's going to be the same organization that you're going to pay for the SAT, that you're going to pay for maybe the PSAT or AP exams. But it's a private financial aid form essentially through College Board, and this too usually goes live around October 1st of senior year for families. This year it was released, I think it was around almost middle of September, somewhere around like the 20th or 23rd. So it could be a little bit earlier, could be a little bit later, but usually right around October 1st. Now, the CSS profile is used by around 250 colleges. And earlier we were talking about MIT or Northwestern or Harvard. Those are the schools that are typically using this form, right? The competitive, expensive private universities, as well as the competitive, expensive public universities. Think like University of Michigan and University of Virginia. Those schools use this form because they want to know more detailed information about your family, because they give a lot of their own money. They get a lot of what's called institutional aid. And that's why this is such a lengthy application. And that's why also this is, I'd say, a little bit intrusive. A big differentiator between the FAFSA, the form we just talked about a second ago, and this form, the CSS profile, is that home equity is actually treated as a liquid asset, a resource, right? Some colleges like Boston College, NYU, Syracuse, they use every dollar of equity you have in your house and they assess it at 5%, right? So if you have $500,000 of equity in your house, it's $25,000 a year for college. So another planning opportunity, another way of trying to figure out, is our home equity actually going to make college cost more? Are the colleges essentially going to penalize us for having a lot of it? Are there certain schools we should avoid because of that? Or is there something we should do ahead of time to put ourselves in a better position to get more money from the colleges? Now, divorced or separated families, just said the FAFSA is one household, but the CSS profile, there's an additional form called the non-custodial profile. And that essentially is a CSS profile for the non-custodial household. So they're going to take all that same information, income, assets, you name it, from the other household, and they're also going to look at that as part of their calculation. Now, if there's circumstances like no contact or abuse or some sort of pretty extreme circumstances, you can get what's called a non-custodial waiver. And that non-custodial waiver is essentially asking the colleges not to look at the other parent's information, right? For anyone who owns a business, the CSS profile asks way more questions. They ask business tax information. They ask value of the business. They ask what debts against the business. They're going to ask what goods, services, what percentage of ownership. Do any other family members have ownership? You name it. But they're asking these questions because they're also essentially looking at that business. Is there equity in it? Could that be used as a resource to pay? So it's a much, much more invasive, much, much more complex financial aid form than the FAFSA, and definitely way more questions. You log into this not with your own account, but with your student's College Board credentials. So they probably already have an account. I would not be surprised by any means. So go ahead, actually. Now, if prior year income isn't accurate, or if your current reality doesn't reflect what the school's looked at, then, well, you have to do what's called an appeal. But appeals really do start now. And the reason they start now is because not only are you planning when building the school list and looking through the merit scholarships that they offer and how are you going to leverage that for competition and so forth, but you're also even thinking, well, my circumstance, I know it's going to change. Maybe you know this ahead of time and you're like, well, certain schools are flexible with that, certain schools aren't. And maybe you're thinking, well, what schools are going to actually help us during college and what schools aren't? And maybe you purposely pick a private school because you know they're going to be a little bit easier to work with and they're going to be a little bit better to deal with your family. Maybe you get a better deal from a public school and your student ends up going there. That's totally fine. But again, just planning now. When it comes to appeals, you're ultimately going to be telling a story. You're going to be persistent. You're going to need to provide documentation. Really, you're making a case and you're making an argument. And again, nothing stops you from thinking through this now. We're working with a lot of seniors who are going through this appeals process. And it's my favorite part of the year, but it's probably one of the most stressful parts of the year because there's a lot of money on the line. There's a lot of obviously time crunches and stress involved. But again, if you're prepared, if you go in having a plan, having schools that you can use as leverage, knowing your circumstances, maybe even getting your taxes done early, then you're definitely going to end up doing quite a bit better. But I want to spend a few more minutes in the software, if that's okay, talking through this a little more. Did we have any good questions that came in?
Um, they've all been answered. So if anyone else has any other questions, please feel free to go ahead and pop those into the Q&A for us.
Yeah, absolutely. But so I'm going to spend just a few more minutes going through here some of the schools that actually are also giving need-based aid. Dan, you and I were talking earlier today, and we were like, you know what's a really good indicator if we're today's call is all about maximizing merit. We talked a little bit about financial aid, just so everyone knows it, but it's all about maximizing merit. Well, if we look at a highly selective school, right, and we're seeing that, you know what, they're basically meeting full need, meaning they're giving families every dollar that they qualify for. It's really tough to get accepted. From an admissions perspective, you've got pretty high requirements. Merit scholarships are typically going to be very limited, just like we were talking about earlier with Harvard and MIT and those other schools. So if that's the case, and you don't qualify for any need-based aid, you might rule the school out, right? You might say, you know what? I know that a school like Boston University or a school like Boston College isn't going to be affordable, so we're not going to take the time and spend the money to go toward it or to, pay for that. How much is an application there, Dan? $100, $75?
Oh, yeah, probably easily. Yeah.
Yeah, to pay that application fee. There's a lot of money and stress and time that can be saved just by working through this, working through the schools that you're going to get merit scholarships at and working through the schools that you're not going to get any money from. Do you want to add anything to that, Dan?
No, I mean, it's just important to have an open, transparent conversation. In fact, the other advantage to this is, of course, having the college money talk. So as a family, you guys need to talk it through so that everybody's on the same page, so that when you're looking at these schools, you guys really do have an idea of where it is. I mean, think of that. Boston University at $100,000 a year. I mean, it's for a lot of families, that's just well out of the range, but it depends on your circumstances. And again, just like Kevin said, look at how limited the scholarship offerings here. It's very intentional because it's a school that will indeed help a family that has, a financial need. There's other schools that do the same thing, but you just have to be careful.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can see here, right? No real merit. National merit finalists, it's very competitive, very difficult. The 9/11 GI Bill, Yellow Ribbon, and so forth. That's just that sign that, you know what, we don't qualify for anything. It's not the right fit. Um, with this net cost here, we're trying to give you the tools. We're trying to make sure you understand what to look for, and how to search and navigate this. But if you're like, wow, SAI, looking through all these different merit scholarships, it's too much. All of that's automatically done here on the right-hand side. So, you could absolutely just say, you know what, I'm going to take the numbers right here. Maybe I don't want to look through them too much, but still get value by seeing, all right, what is that net cost for our family based on our information? And you're not shopping with the sticker price. But okay, I'm going to stop sharing that.
Hey, I will go ahead and answer this question like they said.
Sure.
If we subscribe to your software, can it be used for multiple student profiles or only one student per subscription? And the answer is that it is one student per subscription for you to be able to do that. And the reason for that is because you're going to put all their specific demographics in there. So not to mention their college list could be way different than the other students' college list. So
Now, so we want to spend a few minutes answering everyone's questions, but we also want to talk through what we're going to offer for everyone on the call tonight. I'll wait for some questions to come in. While those questions come in, please feel free to ask anything. We've got Dan here, who is not only a financial aid expert, but a college admissions expert, and then myself on the financial aid side. But so as you start this process, right, your students midway through junior year, you're maybe starting to have those conversations about building the school list. Maybe you're starting to have, hopefully, conversations about affordability. Maybe you're starting to think, what do I qualify for? Am I really going to focus on merit, or do I get a lot of need-based aid? What I would ask is take a few minutes. We're offering the chance to meet with us for free. And then, do you want to actually share that slide?
I will. Yep.
But we are offering the chance where we can talk through where you're currently at in the process. We'll talk through if you do qualify for any merit scholarships, or if you do qualify for any need-based grants. And that way you're going to know, right? Do I avoid the schools that are 100 grand and don't give any merit scholarships at all? Or are they actually going to be good for us? Is that actually going to be a school that's going to be affordable for our family? And then just to see essentially what the next steps would be, right? Are you approaching it the right way? Are you looking at it the right way? Are you behind, right? Or I doubt I'll ever say this, but are you ahead? So take the opportunity, take the time to meet with us. We are offering a free 15-minute call. We do really kindly ask that. We just showed, right, the information that goes in MyCAP. We showed how helpful it is to kind of drive these conversations. It should take no more than 5-10 minutes. Spend a few minutes, put your information in there before the call so we can have a more informed conversation with you. And in addition to that, right, if you do end up saying, you know what, I need some extra help, I kind of want to know what you guys have to offer, or we determine, hey, based on the approach we're taking, we could really provide a big ROI and make a big difference, we'll explain what we have to offer. And not only that, but I think everyone knows it's President's Day weekend coming up, which hopefully is a long weekend for everyone. It's actually not, Dan, a long weekend at CAP.
No, right.
Not for us. But hopefully everyone has a nice long weekend. But we are also running a promotion for President's Day. And if you meet with us before the 20th, you'll also be able to access that if you do decide to have us help with this process. I will drop the link in the chat, and then we can start answering some questions. And again, please put some questions in the chat. We're asking us to try to stump us. Do you want to take the question while I put this in the chat, Dan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Get in there. So the question is, I've noticed many schools' net price calculators are out of date by several years. Is that where your website is pulling from its calculation or calculators, or do you have different or more accurate sources? Yeah, great question. I mean, it's actually one of the biggest reasons why our software is as popular as it is, and also why we both love using it, is because we have data scientists that are out there looking at these numbers all the time, because we truly know, just like you've just or shared with us, that a lot of these net price calculators are using old numbers when it comes to tuition cost, room and board. I mean, any number of things that are in there. I mean, it's amazing, isn't it, Kevin? Sometimes the numbers that we see that these schools are putting out as far as, what they're projecting their numbers to be.
It shouldn't even be legal, if you ask me. It really shouldn't even be legal. It could be very, very misleading, and you could end up down the wrong path, and your student could apply to all these schools that, just based on the net price calculators, end up not being affordable because they were out of date or because they're just not good. We really do try to be as accurate as possible. But during the call that I just mentioned, right, we can also give you a high level approach, like based on your SAI. Do you avoid the schools that only meet need, meaning they only give those need-based grants based on income and assets, or do you actually focus on them? And also from a merit perspective, what should you be looking in-state public or private? So we're always trying to figure out what's the best path forward. Because I think for every family, let me know if you agree with me or not, Dan. Every family has their own approach, and it's going to pretty much be different across the board. But it's like based on income, based on student test scores, based on GPA, certain schools and certain types of schools that that particular family should be looking at. Once you nail that down, building the school list is actually going to be, I don't want to say easy. It's never easy to build a school list, but you're going to be able to do it in a much more effective way. But so
Yeah,
I think
and I will say from kind of one of the approaches I take with my families, I say there's really four pillars that you need to be focused on. And sometimes it gets really out of order. That's why I'm going to say them the way that I do. I think it needs to be right from the beginning, financially the right fit, then academically the right fit, socially the right fit, and then I throw in geographically the right fit. And the reason I do that is I can tell you that over the years, sometimes students want to get as far away from home as possible. And the issue that they run into is they get out there and they discover, wow, I need to be around my parents or I need to be around my friends or things like that. So just be careful with that. But again, financially, academically, socially, and geographically, the right fit. If all those are solid as a rock, your student's going to be solid and also thrive at their school, not just survive.
absolutely, absolutely. We got a great question, which I'm sure we've got many families who are going to have more than one child in college at the same time. But Matt has twins graduating in 2027, and how does that factor into the SAI? So interestingly, schools that just use the FAFSA, you get no discount, you get no break for having two children in college at the same time. But the schools that use the CSS profile, they are going to give you a break. And I'm going to use round numbers to try and make it a little bit easy to understand. So let's say your student aid index with one child in college is normally 100,000. Well, when you have two children in college at the same time, it should be 60,000 per student. So essentially a $40,000 discount or 40%. Now, your total number, if you take the 60 and the 60 and you add it together, right, you're back at 120, which is more than initially. So they're not exactly giving you half off, but you're still getting a sizable discount at many CSS profile schools for having more than one child in college at the same time. And if this applies to your family, not only if you have twins, but if you have a junior and a sophomore or a junior and a freshman, it's a really big planning opportunity to look at certain schools that are actually going to give you a break for having to pay for two college bills at the same time versus schools that maybe aren't. So those are all the factors that you do want to be thinking about now, right? You do want to be planning ahead. I'm not sure if you want to add anything to that, Dan.
No, that was great. I do have another question that was asked here, which is, does the applicant, meaning your student, get first a letter that he or she is accepted, and then second a letter with the financial aid details? The answer is absolutely correct. So if you think about it, you're going to submit things. Students are going to be submitting their applications starting as early as August the 1st, all the way up sometimes through January, or into January, depending upon how they're applying to schools. And then you got to wait, and you have to wait, and you have to wait, and the student eventually is going to get accepted. And then sometime after that, can't tell you exactly when, could be pretty quickly after that point in time, but in other cases, it could be weeks before they get the actual financial aid offers that come through. I mean, we've got students right now that, I mean, I'm Kevin, I'm sure you're in the same boat I am. I've got families where the students got accepted back in December. They're still waiting for their financial aid offers to come through, with some
Absolutely.
schools. So just know that they're in the driver's seat at that point. It's one of the hardest parts about college admissions and college financial aid is you lose control, but where you can take control again is like Kevin was saying earlier when it comes to going and doing the appeals process and from the beginning making sure that you're picking the right kinds of colleges. It really does make a difference, so that that you're approaching it the right way.
Absolutely. We had a good question that just came in about home equity, and I want to show something real quick. So we were talking through before how to plan, right? And how to know if schools are or aren't using home equity. And this SAI here, this is the CSS profile, institutional SAI. You can see that it's between 40 and 51,000. The reason it's 51 is because of home equity, right? 40 means without home equity. So when we're doing that, we're trying to plan and figure out, all right, what schools are using home equity? What schools are actually getting down to that 40,000 renter number? And you can see here, right, schools like, bear with me, like Williams, right? They're at 47,000 versus the 51. So they're not using home equity at Williams, right? They're not giving you exactly every dollar, but they're not using home equity. Now, other schools like Syracuse, you can see are 58,000. They are using home equity there. And one of the things that you can do too ahead of time is try to figure out, well, are there ways for my family to reduce the home equity before filing the financial aid forms? Does that even make sense for us? But those are all conversations that you can have early on. You're able to adjust and shift assets up until the day you file the financial aid forms. Income, on the other hand, you can't, because if you have a class of 2027 grad, right, a high school junior currently, then they're going to base it off of your 2025 tax year. So the base tax year that they're looking at, that's already over. Now, there's nothing that stops you from doing things differently this year, and maybe their sophomore year of college or even freshman year, you have to appeal when qualifying for more aid. But at least from an asset perspective, whether it be non-retirement assets or home equity, there's always going to be some opportunities up until the day the forms are filed to make some adjustments. And then for income too, there could be some planning opportunities there, especially for business owners or families who have a little bit more control over their income. So
Yeah, great point.
stop sharing here. Any other questions come through?
Nope, not yet.
Okay. I'll drop the link once more so everyone can get a chance to meet with us. Bear with me. Oh, one just came through the chat. Do you want to take it?
Sure. Let me hop in here and see what we've got.
I can read it too.
Go
Is
for
there
it.
a uniform date for all colleges by which an offer has to be accepted?
Oh, that's a great question. So let me give you the old way and the new way, but they're kind of the same way. How about that? But here's the deal. In the past, there was what was known and still is somewhat known as National Decision Day, which is May the 1st. The reason I say that's the old way is because a few years ago, that was determined not to be legal, not to be the right way to do things. Colleges were told that they needed to give more flexibility. But here's what I will tell you, and it really comes right back to what we're talking about tonight. Many colleges expect to hear whether or not you're going to accept the merit scholarships that they've offered you by May the 1st. Okay. And so just keep that in mind as you're doing this. Now, are there times when a student and or parents could ask for a little bit of an extension? Maybe you're still waiting on another school, before making that final decision. Yes, that could happen. Um, that becomes a pretty big pressure cooker when if your student has applied to a school, for example, early decision 1 or 2, and there's specific deadlines that they've got, which are even earlier than that May 1st deadline. But just know that May the 1st is the big date that everyone's going to be talking about. Try to shoot for that date if you've got all the information that you need to make an informed decision, because if not, ask for that extension.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But we'll give another minute. Feel free to drop another question. Otherwise, we will wrap up for tonight. Oh, could I take this one on appeals?
Go for it.
Could you briefly explain again the appeals process? Is it formal, as in you send an email, or do you just call the admissions office on the phone or request an appointment? The appeals process, it actually is, at least in my opinion, a little bit complex, right? Because depending on the circumstances, you might go to the Office of Admissions or you might go to the Office of Financial Aid. A need-based appeals go to the Financial Aid Office, merit to the Office of Admissions, but it isn't just casual. It isn't just a phone call. It isn't just, hey, an email, I want more money. You need to be really strategic. You need to That's why we're talking through how to plan for this ahead of time. Maybe it's with the schools that your student applies to. Maybe it's with documenting your expenses throughout the year so you can be a little bit better prepared when it comes time to the appeal. But you need to be strategic with the reasons, because there's only so many things the college can make adjustments for. And they can't just always make an adjustment because you want more money. You almost have to make a case to them. And it has to be a strong case. And maybe you do send this in an email, but I can say Dan and myself, I know we spend a lot of time on this for clients. We're filling out forms and writing really compelling statements as to why those families deserve more money. So do you want to take this one on early college applications?
There's also one in the Q&A. Let me take that one first. It says, does not filing a FAFSA form send a terrible message to a college that you are hoping to maybe be considered for a merit scholarship? I don't think we would qualify for any need-based aid, but it never hurts to see what kind of discount we could get otherwise. You have to know that it's our opinion that you always need to have a backup plan. And that backup plan is the fact that you've submitted the FAFSA at least the first year. Because look, folks, here's the deal. Kevin and I have been doing this a long time. I mean, in my case, I've been doing it for 20 years. And over that span of time, I've seen parents who have become disabled, have lost their jobs. A parent has died, businesses have gone into bankruptcy. When those things happen, you've got to have a trail for those colleges to be able to go back to. So having the FAFSA there as a backup plan is really the best idea that we can share with you. Is it going to necessarily impact a merit-based scholarship? If the college wants those financial aid forms to be submitted, yes. But if not, then your student is going to be getting that money based on what they bring to the table, their GPA, their test scores, or whatever else is there. So.
Someone asked a question about do you want to take that one right there, the FAFSA, or sorry, not the FAFSA one, the yes, the session is going to be recorded.
Yeah.
It will be sent out tomorrow. As of right, we're not, unfortunately, someone just said that they're not able to meet with us before the 20th. Feel free to write into support. But we aren't able to offer a meeting beyond that. So you could always book a meeting, and listen, if your family can't meet and you need to reschedule, just send us an email and let us know. But if you do book, please do try to meet with us. Let me answer that one. Done. You're answering that one there. All right. Cool.
Yeah.
Well,
actually, I'll answer live if you're okay with it.
Yeah, go for it, please.
Does your software account for tuition discount programs like WUI? It does indeed. Yeah, it absolutely has those in there in the merit scholarship opportunities. So if you're confident that your student has what it takes to qualify for that, then you can either click it and it will then be represented in the discounting that shows up. So yes.
Absolutely. And for everyone who does have a junior or does have a sophomore, please do not delay starting this process. If you had a freshman, I would be begging you to start it right now. The longer you wait to start this process, the more it becomes literally like crisis planning. The more it becomes very stressful, and almost your options become more and more limited. Your opportunities become more and more limited. And quite frankly, you might end up costing yourself money. So please, start doing your homework, but also take the time to meet with us. 15 minutes, take the time to make sure you're on the right track and you're looking at this the right way. Just to make sure that you're not going down the wrong path, and also that you're prepared. If you have a junior, I don't know the exact number of days, but I mean, you're talking about college applications being submitted in 5 months, right? Roughly, they open in 5 months. So it might feel like there's a world of time, but there isn't. And sophomores, class of 2028, I promise you, time will fly by. But not only that, it's the base income year. This is the income year that they are looking at. So you need to make sure you're not making the wrong mistakes that are going to end up making college more expensive. Simple things, we see it all the time, that happen on a tax return could end up costing quite a bit and causing a little bit of a headache when it comes to appeals. So yes, our software is free to use up to 3 schools. And if you want to entering more than 3 schools, you would have to pay. And this is on the page that I shared a few minutes ago, back about 8 minutes ago now. Here, I'll share it here again. But we do have a premium version, more features, unlimited schools, and you can put in any amount of school that you want to, totally unlimited there.
When you
But
compare the price of the software to what you're going to pay for college, it's like the mosquito bite on the back of an elephant, folks. Don't be afraid to spend the money. It's going to be the best investment you ever made for your kids.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely. The free version shows the information that I was sharing on the screen for up to 3 schools.
yeah,
Um, so definitely worth putting some information in there now, getting started, taking a look. Know your SAI, right? Know if you do or don't qualify for merit scholarships, and also start seeing, like, based on your students' test scores and GPAs, how do you maximize that? But again, just easiest way to get started, have a conversation with us, and we'll
yeah.
kind
I
of
do
take it.
want to answer this last question, by the way, Kevin. So, following up on the appeals question, is deserving more money or needing more dollars based on your economics, or could it be just about comparisons between an in-state school versus an out-of-state school? Um, It's going to come down to the numbers, folks. I mean, it comes down to how your SAI compares. It also comes down to whether that school, how do they react to in-state versus out-of-state students when it comes to their financial aid? I mean, that's really where those appeals come in. Are we talking about an appeal that's a merit-based appeal or a need-based appeal? It's really two different approaches, and just something that's really important, that you spend a lot of time preparing for, or I mean, that's where College Aid Pro's experts really come into play. We've got an incredible track record of helping families with those appeals.
I think we're almost at $1 million just for the class of 2026.
Yeah, and still rocking and rolling, man. We've got some
Just getting
exciting
going.
cases we're working on right now to help families. It's just a really, really great time.
Just getting going. But okay, thank you everyone for joining us. We hope you enjoyed talking about merit scholarships with us. We hope we provided some good, valuable information, and we do hope you take the opportunity to meet with us for 15 minutes to talk through your circumstances and make sure you're on the right track. Okay. Have a good night, Dan. Have a good night, everyone.
Yeah. Good night, Kevin. Have a great evening, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Bye.